I do remember doing the press for it. And it was a time where there was some backlash for the 80s horror films because there was some copycat murders and some, it continued to be a thing with suicide. You have to be careful about suicide depiction on screen because you don't want to romanticize it anyway. So I remember I had to defend the fact that it was that it was a horror film and that was all this violence, and do I worry about copycat murders? And I found that very odd for me because it's not like I wrote the film and then they would like your character, they'd like act like I was the one that was responsible for it, and so it was interesting to navigate. But the other thing that was interesting, and I'm sure you guys think about this, and I'm curious what you thought about it, because in general, a horror film, as a producer, I certainly follow more this line of thinking that the murderer, the criminal, needs motivation. And the writer director felt like he would defy the sort of convention by being more realistic, which is obviously serial killers often don't have a real motivation. They're just killing people. Their motivation is to kill, but not who they're killing. I remember my character said, people kill people for no reason at all. Like I was trying to be the voice of the writer director. I felt like that's who I was the writer director. It was probably based on his own fascination with crime and thinking that this would be a good way to do it. So, I don't know what you thought about that it was a movie without a motivation.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I was going to talk about that actually and ask you about it. What I find interesting is that maybe back at that time, that was sort of the criticism, but I find it to be kind of flipped today. I feel when there's too much motivation, especially in horror movies, that it turns fans off. I think that happened with, for example, I'll give you a perfect example. The Halloween remake in the 2000s Rob Zombie's film. I liked it. A lot of the fans, though, and the chatter was about that Rob Zombie gave too much background to Michael growing up and then becoming a serial killer, whereas the original Halloween in 1978, there was no motivation. He just killed a sister one day and they never really explained. They didn't explain it. He was just evil. I find it to be more scary when somebody doesn't have a motivation. And I'm a fan of true crime, ID channel, all of that. And I find it to be much more horrifying when somebody just does it because they have to, because it's something in them that feeds them, if that makes sense. So I actually feel very opposite about it. I think it's scarier.